Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping this week's episode of House of the Dragon, from man-eating crabs to chewed-up fingernails and everything in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, a lot of setup and exposition that turned into a pretty decent episode, I'd say. Keep wanting to say Game of Thrones because, well, you're conditioned after this many years, especially with that intro.
But also, they want you to think this is Game of Thrones.
Seriously.
I mean, I can't say that I expected a ton of differences, really, but this could they're blatantly capitalizing on every aspect of the success of the original Game of Thrones, down to the theme song and the similar opening theme.
Now,
am I insane?
Sequence. Last week we did not get that, did we?
We did not have one. No.
Okay. No, so it was just cold open into whatever.
Just started. Yep.
Okay. So that threw me for a loop when I heard that. I was like, hold on. This is they couldn't I like Ramin Djawadi, but could you come up with something a little use it as a leitmotif through something or whatever? But
yeah, and I think
weird.
We talked about it last week at the end credits. We're like, well, they're using the same theme, but then I didn't expect them to use the same theme for the intro, which we're going to hear every week. It's like, I don't know. Give me some, I don't know. It's a constant with possessive and sometimes toxic fandom. Sometimes you got to straddle the line between giving them something new that they've never seen and also giving them exactly the same thing that they want and they're expecting. And I think maybe they're like, okay, well, we'll use the exact same theme song. We'll use all the exact same sets. It'll just look, I got to say, okay, I liked this episode and it seems like I'm going to like this show, but one little nitpick, it just looks exactly the same. It just looks like the same show. If you didn't tell me it was a prequel, you could have told me it was a sequel, and I would absolutely believe it. Everything, it's 127 years in the past, and everything looks exactly the same. I feel
same clothes, same everything.
Yeah, exactly.
There's slightly different helmets for the Kingsguard and the Gold Cloaks.
Right, but that could also be because it's Targaryens instead of whoever, instead of Lannisters. That change would have been in actual Game of Thrones. It just seems like differentiate it somehow besides more swords on the floor around the throne. You gotta give me something else to make it feel different. But again, I'm sure there are loads of fans out there that are like, yes, this is more of the same thing that I love. So, and that's what HBO Max wants to. That's what HBO wants too. They want to draw on those Game of Thrones fans and be like, here's what you like. See all these things that you like. We're giving you more of it.
Right.
And in that case, they're doing it. But for me, it's like, I wish it felt in some ways a little different, but it doesn't. It feels like exactly the same.
Yeah, and I think I'm curious if moving forward, since this is going to be a little bit different feel for it between, more focused on, we saw Corlys Velaryon end up at the forefront of this episode.
Yeah.
So you're going to see more of the Sea Snake and the fleet and all that moving forward. I hung out a little after, actually unintentionally, and caught the coming next week, and it's very we're getting a battle next week. So
yeah, the TV was still going, but I was in my kitchen and I heard that and I was like, ooh, I can't see that, but that sounds exciting.
Yeah, I ran to the restroom and then went to come down here and I was like, I was caught. I saw it on the screen. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So at least we're gonna get some actual action. It's been a lot of setup, but it's been set up that moves the plot forward. So
I'm gonna say, to be that was that was my nitpicky negative stuff at the beginning of this, but I really liked this episode. I thought it was really good, and I was texting you in the beginning when I started. I was like, this one seems like it's moving a lot slower than the other one, but then it got somewhere great. I really enjoyed similar to the first episode. The second half I thought was really good, and part of that is probably that I'm not connected to the characters yet,
Mhm.
really. So it's taken me half an episode to be like to remember who they are, what their names are, and like the
Right.
connections between them. It's not like an instantaneous like, oh, Jon Snow, I know that guy because I've been watching him for 7 seasons or something,
Yep.
Um, so it's still taking a little bit longer, but it's doing the job of getting me invested enough to by the end I'm like, ooh, I see where this is going and how this is causing conflict. But what did you think about this episode?
Along the same lines, I think they move things forward quite well. I liked some of the conflict that ended up kind of showing itself at the end with, you know, you thought everything was going to get resolved with Rhaenyra and Daemon, like Rhaenyra getting
Yeah.
the egg back from Daemon, bring it back, the whole thing with her father. What ended up happening after that is he kind of went off the rails and I guess disowned more people. So
Yeah. I will say, I did find this episode to be slightly predictable in
yeah,
that I knew, or I was really hoping that I was right about him not marrying that 12-year-old girl and choosing the Hand's daughter, whose name I do not know.
Alicent Hightower.
Hightower, yeah, that's right.
Otto
Alicent.
Hightower is the guy who Rhys Ifans plays, who is also the lizard.
Yes, I recognized him in episode
Yep.
1. How did we not mention that in episode 1 that the lizard is in this show? But
I actually didn't
I
recognize him until this episode, for the record.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I
Cool.
was sitting there. It
That's why
was
we didn't talk about it.
early in the episode. I was like, "Hold on, that's okay."
That's the lizard.
I know him.
But just like thinking about how they set up they reminded us of the friendship between Rhaenyra and Alicent in the beginning when they were around that cool like circle of candles. And then at the end, like they were really pushing, like everybody is telling him, you got to marry this 12-year-old. You got to marry this 12-year-old.
And when that happens, it usually means you're not going to marry this 12-year-old, or you're going to, and something horrible is going to happen because it's Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, those are the two things that I thought. It was like when he had the one-on-one meeting with that guy whose name I don't know, and he was like, "You really need to marry this girl." And I was like, "Okay, this seems like it's too far now." So I don't think he is going to, or he is going to, and that girl will immediately die horribly, or something, or he will, or something. Yeah. But then by the end, I was like, no, he's gonna end up marrying the other girl, and that's gonna cause conflict between him and his daughter, especially after like he had that heartfelt scene with his daughter. I was like, okay, this is like mending a bridge that will immediately be broken. And I think it's gonna, so like I kind of saw where it was going. I can't say that I will always see where it's going, but this episode was kind of like, okay, I see. I bet this is gonna happen. But
they did kind of slap you upside the head quite a couple times with it this year.
Yeah. I'm also really glad he's not marrying that 12-year-old, because if he was, I don't know that I would have kept watching this show, to be honest with you.
Understandable.
I was like, I cannot abide that.
Right. There's enough questionable things in Game of Thrones to watch as it is. Like that one might have been a bridge too far.
I was turned off enough by the thing what we talked about last week, and so I was like, if this is strike 2, it might just immediately be strike 3 at the same time, because I don't want to do that again. I really liked, and I continue to like from the first episode, Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen.
Yep.
I think they are doing a great job of establishing him as like ruthless and, headstrong, reactionary. But I think the casting of him kind of plays against the normal casting of somebody like that. He's not like a big burly. I mean, he's bigger for this show, but he's wearing armor, so he looks huge. But like, he's not like a wrestler or something. He's not like inherently
it's not the Mountain
built and intimidating. Yeah, exactly. And you would think that that's who they would cast as this, but no, they cast this guy. It's like little British guy. Again, he's not little, but he portrays that power. He portrays that strength and that, frustration and anger and all the, the stuff that makes him who he is. But mixed with the fact that he has this like kind of higher pitched, whiny, sniveling voice,
Mhm.
kind of, really works for me. Really, because he doesn't have this like big, intimidating voice. He's like just a high pitched British accent guy.
Right. Just
And
some dude that happened to be the second son of a Targaryen that
yeah, but also like the voice can be like almost. I feel like it can probably is like grating on some people or irritating to
right.
some people because it's like high pitched, but also like makes him more annoying as a character, even though his actions have already made him very annoying. Like he's
Yep.
going to be a really good antagonist in this show, or at least they're setting him up as that antagonist. I haven't read the book, so I don't know if that continues as that, but um,
I have the
one can
audiobook,
assume.
have not listened to it.
Yeah, okay. I think one can assume from the first two episodes that he's being set up as the main antagonist of the
Right.
show. So
That's
I liked him a lot.
it's also setting him up as saying or doing whatever he needs to I mean, for lack of a better description, piss off his brother.
Sure.
Because why else would you announce that you're getting married and are with child without
Doing
actually
those
telling
things.
telling
Yeah.
your wife that or
Right.
your betrothed that was not
Yeah.
betrothed and then having her freak out. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
playing the game. The question is whether he's going to get the best of the game.
Yeah. How well is he playing the game?
Right.
He thinks he's playing it very well. What else? What else did you like about this episode? I really like the maggot scene.
I
Because
love
it was-
that there's something going on with Viserys that we don't know, like what. There's a ticking time bomb here,
Mhm.
and whether it's it doesn't seem to be. Well, it might be grayscale. Who knows? But we saw the spot on his back last week, and then the finger this week.
That's right. Thank you. I
So
forgot about that. Yep.
so this is kind of turning into, especially if he remarries, what's going down, and is it going to turn into his new wife versus his daughter?
Wow. Yeah. Now I like that scene even more because I had forgotten about the thing on his back
Yep.
in episode 1. But I liked it because I like the maggots thing because it was gross, but also factual. Like that's true.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah.
maggots will actually clean a wound, as disgusting as it is. They will not. They will only eat the rotten flesh.
Right.
It's really gross. But accurate. So I thought
Hey,
that was cool.
maggots and leeches can still be useful.
Yeah, sure. Although disgusting.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I know there was one other thing. Is there anything? I have one thing I want to talk about, but it's more like that happened, well, throughout, but also towards the end. What else did you want to touch on for this episode?
I Rhaenyra, sorry. No.
Yeah.
No, Rhaenyra, got it right. Her interaction with Rhaenyra, that was definitely something that was kind of I almost want to say laying it out for the future of, am I going to call it now that Rhaenyra and Daemon end up teaming up?
Oh shit! I didn't think about
Because
that.
if her father gets remarried, then do they produce an heir? And if they produce an heir,
Right.
then is she vying for the throne because she was named, and does Daemon jump on her side?
Yeah, I don't know. Could go anywhere. But I did really like that scene between the two. You're talking about the scene between Rhaenyra and
Yes.
the queen that never was.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had mentioned that last week when you were saying that that's what from what you knew about the books or whatever, that's where this story was kind of going to go, the two of them fighting against the, patriarchal setup of Westeros or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered. And then I
Yeah.
saw things this episode that I was like, is that true? And then I thought, well, there's a chance that might come back around.
Yeah, that scene was great. I like that a lot, and it
Yeah.
did feed into what you were talking about. So to where Rhaenyra says, "Are you trying to make me mad or something?" And she's like, "No, quite the opposite." And
Right.
she's like, "Oh, I'm trying to team up with you or help
Right.
you."
I'd like to help you.
Yeah. So I would like to see more of that for sure.
Now, one thing
that
I
was great.
did see, I can't remember. It was probably before. I think it was before I watched the episode. There is going to be a time jump in the middle of the show.
Really?
So
How do we
there's
know that?
because of casting. There's apparently been 2 people cast as Rhaenyra, 2 people cast as Alicent. So,
Really?
yep.
In this season?
Yeah. Like
Whoa.
I saw a
That-
still of the other person that's Alicent Hightower. So, that'll be
wow.
intriguing as to what happens there.
Do we know how far of a time jump it's going to be?
Uh I don't know, 10, 15 years by the look of who I saw cast.
Wow.
So it could be
Sorry,
we
I'm
get
just
some
knocked. Yeah.
we might get some, like, this might be the setup, and then we get the fulfillment of the story. That also might explain why Matt Smith had stills and trailer shots of him with the short hair.
See, I didn't see any of those. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't remember the short hair trailer shots. Wow. That's crazy. So that's interesting because okay, I'm watching this episode tonight and I'm looking at the king and I'm like, this guy's gonna die, right? Like he can't be.
He's dying
For s-
quick.
I don't know what it is. It's just something about it's. I mean, the actor's doing a great job, but it's just something about the character. I was like, I don't think that this guy is gonna be a lead of this show for multiple seasons. It's just it doesn't seem like it seems like they're gonna he's got to get out of the way so there can be a fight for the power of the so there be a fight over the throne between Rhaenyra and Daemon or whoever else or whatever. It seems like he isn't going to be around for long. I don't know. I just got that vibe from watching that character
Yeah.
tonight. And now you're saying there's going to be a time jump. That tells me that they're probably going to jump till after the king has been dead for a while. You know, maybe we're going to see the king die in episode. How many episodes are there? 10 this season?
10. Sounds right.
I mean, there used to be 10 of Game of Thrones, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm guessing that. But like, maybe the king dies in episode 4, and then episode 5 is a time jump or something, or what you're saying, which seems crazy that they would like, because if they're recasting, if they cast multiple characters, that just seems crazy to do in the first season of a show, where you're just meeting all these characters and you're identifying them with the actors that you're meeting for the first time in a lot of ways, and then you're going to jump 10 or 15 years into the future, and then half the cast is probably going to be dead, and then the other cast that you are still alive are going to be played by different people. That just seems wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like that's the wisest course of action, but hey, if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I know. I'll be very interested to see if they pulled it off, and I'm shocked that I hadn't heard that. Like, how have you and I not talked about that aspect of this yet? I
We
did
must
not know
have
that.
missed a memo somewhere in there.
Wow. Well, they certainly got time to play with because they have 127 years before anything that we know of Game of Thrones has happened. So they can
Yeah.
jump more than 15 years and still be in the clear.
Yeah, apparently Emma Darcy is D'Arcy is the actor who is taking over Rhaenyra.
Wow. Weird.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works, man.
Yeah,
they can
and I
pull
guess
it
they
off,
could
they can
come
pull it
back
off.
to this. I guess they could come back to this time period if they wanted to. Oh, that's strange. One thing that occurred to me in this episode, and I don't remember the first season of Game of Thrones, incredibly well, but
I do.
I feel like when did they? I feel like I remember that in the at least in the majority of Game of Thrones, you were hopping around to meet characters that were in different locations, whether it's people at the Wall
Yep.
or in the Northland or whatever, Winterfell or at King's Landing. And now I feel like everything's just taking place in King's Landing, and there's no like diversity of plot line. I guess it's just like
Yeah.
this is all they're all
No,
right here.
I could see
That's all
that.
that's happening. And I know that the majority of Game of Thrones season 1, or at least the first maybe half of it, I know they ended up splitting up and going in different ways, but like I think it's mostly took place at Winterfell the first few episodes, and then John went to the Wall, the others went to King's Landing to be the hand of the king, and some people stayed at Winterfell, so like that split them up.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'm hoping that something like that happens, but I would like to start seeing other characters in other environments, and then either the characters we know now, splitting them up. I guess we now have Dragonstone, but it was only a
Well, on
brief
that,
cut over to that.
if you, I know you're not remembering the original much,
The
but
first 2 episodes or whatever, yeah.
so it started. I mean, the entire everything we saw was episode 1 was all at
Yeah.
Winterfell, and then
Right.
episode 2 was when they're starting to head down the King's Road.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like I don't even know if it was episode 3 we got to King's Landing, but
Yeah, so it took some time.
it's
All right.
it's adding and bringing in different pieces, and we're
Yeah,
gonna get
time
Dragonstone.
being-
They've been talking about the is it the Sandstone Steps or whatever the islands that the Crabman is on.
Yes.
And then I guarantee we're gonna see Driftwood. So there's a lot that's a lot that seems like it's going to be coming.
Yeah. I think I'm just being impatient for that kind of storytelling that I enjoy. Okay, but well, you mentioned him, so I don't know anything about this guy, but if you told me, there's going to be an antagonist in this show that is a pirate that captures ships and then feeds all the men to live crabs, I would have been sold immediately without seeing a trailer.
Right.
Like that's just one, it's hilarious, and like if I just said that to my wife who doesn't watch this show, she'd be like, "That sounds dumb."
Right,
I'd be
well,
like,
that
"Yeah,
was
it does kind of sound dumb, but I love it. I don't. It's so like
yeah.
crabs, not necessarily intimidating creatures, but if you are incapacitated on a beach or tied down on a beach and there's 100 of them, then that's terrifying.
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah. And
that
so
was
I
my
am,
wife watching this one. Was that first shot?
yeah.
It was
I was like, is this a flashback? What is happening?
Right.
Where is this going on? Yeah.
And she was sitting there like when she thought it was all dead people, it was fine, but when the guy twitched, she was like, "Oh, what's
me
going
too.
on here?"
Yep.
So
Yeah. So I'm all in on the Crabman. I'm very excited to see more of that dude in the episodes to come, for sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Shout out to Graham McTavish too, who's I don't know his name, but he's the head of the Kingsguard there.
Oh yeah.
So he was Dwaylen in the Hobbit movies, and also Sigmund Dijkstra in The Witcher.
Oh, cool.
So
Oh, so he's been around.
Yeah, he's been like animated Castlevania, Loki, and a bunch of animated projects. He's done a lot of voice acting, but
Nice.
I was sitting there staring at him. I'm like, why does he look really familiar? And then I realized it was from the last season of The Witcher. He was Dijkstra. So
Oh, cool. I like that guy.
absolutely.
That seems like a classic Game of Thrones intro of a character that has like 2 lines in this episode, but then by season 5, he'll be like everyone's favorite.
Oh,
main
absolutely.
character.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
somehow still coming back like at the end of the series. And you're like, that guy. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
I just noticed on our Twitch stream we had someone from France for a little bit watching us. That's exciting. I don't know where they went, but
I don't know.
thanks for joining from France. Hello.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think that's all I got about this episode. I thought it was really good, and I'm interested to see where it goes. But I liked it a lot.
Olivia Cook is the actor who is playing the new quote unquote the older version of Alison Hightower as well. She was Artemis in Ready Player One. So
okay, yeah, I was gonna say that name sounds familiar.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see when that jump is and what happens, but apparently we're in for our two of our main characters are going to be replaced by different actors in a giant time jump. So
that is so weird.
Yeah,
it's so wild.
So yeah,
like
fun times.
It's weird that they're jumping further. They're jumping far enough in time that they needed a recast, and they couldn't just like make those 2 actresses look older. You know what I mean? Like it seems wild. Like just, you got 2 characters already. They're both very good.
Yeah.
Just make them look a little older. I don't know. It just seems wild that they would cast multiple actors. Anyway, who knows? We shall see whenever that time jump happens. But yeah. I also loved Rhaenyra showing up on her dragon. I gotta say that's the other thing that I
Yeah.
liked.
Yeah, that was
I
great.
love the coming up from under the clouds, and you saw the clouds moving like Bugs
Yep.
Bunny or whatever, before. Yeah, that was really great. Yeah, solid episode. I liked it a lot. Like I said, again, started slow a little bit for me, but then really picked up to when it kind of reminded me of the relationships between the characters, the tension between the characters.
Right.
Um,
I think they're finding the formula though, and I think they're onto something.
yeah, I could tell. This one felt more like an episode than the first one felt like a pilot. Like the first one definitely. This one looked a
Right. A
little
lot
bit
of feel
better,
it
I
out,
think.
and yeah.
Yeah, this one looked like the budget had been increased.
Well, it's like we were talking with all the MCU shows where, episode 1, it's like, okay, cool. Oh, that one they definitely skimped there. And then
Yeah.
like episode 5, you see, oh, this is where they spent the budget. Okay, I
Yeah,
got
exactly.
it.
Yeah, they're all saving it up for this. Yeah.
Oh, dragons and clouds. Okay, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
spend it on that. Sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Steve, are we doing a quick She-Hulk review tonight? I don't know if we're doing that next, or we're just jumping into a regular episode.
We'll play that one by ear, but worst case, hang around. We'll be popping in and out of the channel all night. So yeah, hang around.
If you're watching us live on Twitch, we will be back momentarily. If not, if you're watching us on YouTube, there's other videos for you that we're shooting the same night.
Here, somewhere.
Yeah. Also, and if you're listening on podcast, there's other episodes in your feed. Maybe one about She-Hulk, but definitely one about all this past week's nerdy news, our classic episode.
Right, which this week is, DC and more DC stupid things.
Yep. Sure is.
It's another week of Mike being mad.
Yeah, it is. It is. So stick around for that. And that's all I got. So, like us, subscribe to us on Twitch, on YouTube, on all your podcatchers whenever you're listening to us, multiversereport.com. You can email us at multiversereport@gmail. We're on the socials at all the multiverses or the multiverse, unless you're on Twitter, and that's multiverserpt at twitter.com. And did I get it all right, Steve?
I think you did.
Did I do it?
You
Hooray.
did.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.
Okay. One down. Yeah, I don't know. What do you feel like for She-Hulk? You want to just roll it into the regular, or? Yeah, works for me. We'll see what happens. Episode